Hi, everybody. 2025 hasn't been the easiest year so far, to say the least. Terror attack in New Orleans, guy driving a pickup truck into a crowd, killing 14 innocent people and injuring many others. That happened New Year's Day. Wildfires in Los Angeles that continue to hurt many people. Some have even died. Many have lost their homes. From elite actors to regular workers. It hasn't been easy, and certainly I know this doesn't mean much but thoughts to the victims of both events. And the year didn't get any easier when I found out last Thursday that this man, Bob Uecker, had passed away at the age of 90. And what can I say about Bob Uecker that's not obvious to most baseball fans? By all accounts, a fine guy, amazing sense of humor, fine broadcaster. He spent 54 years with the Milwaukee Brewers. There's this photo of Bob when he was a player with the Milwaukee Braves in 1962, fitting, since Bob was from Milwaukee. And though his Major League playing career was pedestrian at best, he did manage to hit home runs off Hall of Famers Sandy Koufax and Gaylord Perry. Uecker did finish with a career .200 batting average. As he like to brag, an average comparable to that of bowler Don Carter. As this other picture of Uecker is from the 2011 playoffs, where he threw out the first pitch prior to Game 1 of Milwaukee's division series against the Diamondbacks. I mean, what other accomplishments do I need to mention with Uecker? He was on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson many times, got the nickname Mr. Baseball from Carson, was in commercials, was a prominent member of the TV show Mr. Belvedere, the popular sitcom in the 80s, and played the role of Harry Doyle, play-by-play announcer for Cleveland, in the Major League movie franchise. And one of his most famous lines, of course, in that movie, when Charlie Sheen, a.k.a. Ricky Vaughn, throws a wild pitch, Uecker just a bit outside. I think one of the funniest stories I heard about Uecker when he was doing national baseball for ABC, he worked with Al Michaels and Howard Cosell, and Michaels tells the story about how Cosell called for a bunt when it was not called for. Uecker was calmly explaining to Cosell why a bunt wasn't called for. Cosell said, "Ueck, I understand. You don't have to be so truculent. You do know what truculent means, don't you?" And Uecker, without even flinching, said, "Of course, Howard. If you had a truck and I borrowed it, that would be a truculent." Bob Uecker in a nutshell right there. And I think about Uecker's loyalty as well. I mentioned he was with the Milwaukee Brewers for 54 years. He was there when the Brewers made, as of this recording, their only World Series appearance back in 1982. And Milwaukee, in the American League at the time, faced later division rivals St. Louis and lost to the Cardinals in 7 games. And he went through some lean periods with the Brewers. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when they were moving out of County Stadium and into Miller Park. Very tough seasons on the field. In their second year at Miller Park, 2002, the Brewers lost 106 games. I think about tough times for baseball in general that Uecker went through. Multiple work stoppages, including a strike in 1994 that wiped out the World Series. And at least for a little while, many walked away from baseball after that. Uecker was not one of them. In fact, the very next year, he called part of the World Series on NBC with the late Joe Morgan and Bob Costas. And I think about even today, in a time where even with expanded playoffs, most owners, at least some owners, don't seem to want to win, while others obviously want to more than others and take advantage of it, getting every player they can. But Uecker, right up to the very end, was with the Brewers, continuing to announce games, even announcing a handful last year. I think I heard he announced a little less than half the home games. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's what I had heard. Another thing about 1982, that was the Brewers' last playoff appearance till 2008, but Uecker was there every step of the way. I mentioned this photo of him throwing out the first pitch before the 2011 Division Series. That's when Milwaukee won its first division title since '82. 2008 was a wild card season. In 2018, I would imagine for people in Milwaukee, a year almost like '82, although the Brewers didn't quite get to the World Series, but they did win the National League Central, winning a tiebreaker over the Chicago Cubs, game 163, to win the division. And while the Cubs were knocked out in the wild card game by the Rockies, the Brewers kept it rolling, eliminating the Rockies in the division series and took the mighty Dodgers to Game 7 of the National League Championship Series. And Uecker was there for that too. And though the Brewers have not been to the National League Championship Series since 2018, they've been on a competitive run. Wild card berths in 2019 and 2020, another division title in 2021. And now have won 2 straight division titles in 2023 and 2024. His last call was in the wild card series, thanks to the expanded playoff. Third-seeded Milwaukee had to face the 6th-seeded New York Mets in the wild card series. And in the last game of the series, the Mets got 4 runs in the 9th to beat the Brewers 4-2. Uecker admitted he was a little hurt over that. He wasn't planning on retiring, never did. He just loved baseball that much. But unfortunately, he was battling lung cancer and lost his life at the age of 90. Had a great run, though. No doubt about it. His Hall of Fame speech, excellent. I hope you can see that sometime. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame as a broadcaster in 2003. Used a lot of his famous self-deprecating humor in it, and had Hall of Famers in the crowd in stitches. And one more thing before I go. I think one of my favorite memories of Uecker, September 28th, 2000, something I caught on YouTube, and I've talked about this. Closing ceremony to County Stadium, a place he started his Major League Baseball career in, where he announced Brewers games for 30 seasons. He started his Major League playing career, and he managed to remain composed enough to give the final farewell address for County Stadium before the Brewers moved to the new Miller Park the next year. It gives me goosebumps a little bit to see the closing ceremony at County Stadium, as I do a couple times a year. It's like I've mentioned before, when County Stadium closed in 2000, good time for me. When Miller Park opened in 2001, beginning of a bad time for me. That's a personal thing. And then thinking about who all was honored that day. Warren Spahn threw out the first pitch. 300-plus game winner. Guy who in many is still the home run leader, Hank Aaron, was honored. Uecker wasn't the only MC that day. Fellow Wisconsin broadcasters Earl Gillespie and Merle Harmon were there. And they're all gone now, including Uecker. The not-so-subtle reminder that all good things come to an end. A great run, Mr. Uecker, 90 years old, but we will certainly miss you nonetheless. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Talk to you down the road. For now, take care, everyone.